Hello, this is Mary Winter, and I live in Yucaipa, California. I've lived here for a little over a year, and I've been helping the homeless pretty much since I moved here. One of my biggest complaints I get from people is when they say, why don't they just get a job? Or you see comments on the internet about the homeless, and there's always those ugly comments in there. If I can get a job, they can get a job. Well, that's not necessarily the case, and I want to discuss some of the reasons why it's not always feasible or practical or even just possible for our homeless to just get a job. If you go to a job, they're going to expect you to be clean and well kept and not smell, and that's a really hard thing for our homeless to do day in and day out when they don't have access to any showers in Yucaipa. I'm going to speak about how the situation here is in Yucaipa. They have no access to showers. They have no access to public bathrooms on a regular basis. And so, staying clean and presentable and not stinking is going to be really hard for a homeless person in the best situation. And a lot of them are not in ideal or the best homeless situation there is. So that's one factor. Have you ever tried to go to work when you didn't get a good night's sleep, when you were up half the night, or if you were in pain or any of those things? Well, our homeless don't often get a solid, good 6-8 hours of sleep. They're being woken up all the time by law enforcement, code enforcement, by people walking by. We've got a big problem with drugs in Yucaipa, and so there's a lot of tweakers running around, and they do a lot of the crimes here, and so they're always trying to steal the belongings of others so that they can sell them or trade them for drugs. And it's dangerous. It's dangerous at night, and so you pretty much have to sleep with one eye open. So try going to work when you haven't had much sleep and you're expected to put in 8 hours of hard work, because most of the people on the street are going to be in what would be probably more manual labor type jobs. So that's also pretty taxing. Combine that with the fact that a lot of them don't ever get 3 meals in a day. Some of them will go 2 and 3 days without a good meal. And so try going to school or going to work when you're hungry and you're tired and you smell and you're dirty. So probably not going to do the best job, probably not going to keep your job, probably not going to get hired in the first place. The other really big factor is their belongings. They need their belongings to survive. Like literally, it's survival for them. If they lose their bedding, if they lose their tarp, if they lose their clothes, if they lose whatever they have, it could be life or death. So imagine trying to hide your belongings somewhere so that you can go to work for 8 hours, to come home to all your belongings being gone because they've been either stolen or they've been thrown away or confiscated by code enforcement or law enforcement. And now it's nighttime and it's cold in Yucaipa. It snowed a couple of days in the last couple of weeks here. And so now they don't have blankets, they don't have tarps, they don't have their coat or their other warm clothing that they can layer on. And so now what do? That job might have cost them their life that night. We have a woman walking around Yucaipa named Nancy. She's a great lady. She's got her problems, but she's a really, really nice lady. And she's a double amputee. She has 2 prosthetics that she kind of crutches around on. And she lost her legs because she had frostbite here in Yucaipa one night. It was so bad they had to take her legs. We had a guy die last year, just laying out in the park and died. So, survival is really critical for them. I mean, it's survival. Like you can't go to a job if you know you're going to come home and die. Like that doesn't make any sense. That's not getting them further ahead. It's putting their life in jeopardy. And now let's say they do survive the night. Well, now the next day, are they going to want to go to work for 8 hours? Or are they going to want to try and recoup some of the things that they lost so that tomorrow night is not miserable and they're barely squeaking by? And that's what happens a lot. They get in this cycle of, we give them blankets, we give them tarps, we give them coats, we do all this stuff and food, and it gets lost, it gets stolen, it gets taken, it gets thrown away. And so they're constantly in this cycle of acquire stuff, lose stuff, acquire stuff, lose stuff. And it makes it really hard when you're just trying to survive this day, to make it till tomorrow, to ever think about next week or 2 weeks from now when I get my paycheck, or a month away when I get my paycheck. Like, they can't think long term because they're in survival right now. They can't thrive. Transportation is always a problem. Depending on where they need to go. A lot of times they get chased around town because there's nowhere in Yucaipa that they're allowed to sleep or stay or shelter. They're not allowed to put up tents, and so they often have to move around. They don't know where they're going to spend the night, usually from one night to another. And so not knowing where you're going to spend the night, how do you get to the buses, to get to transportation? How do you meet whoever's going to pick you up at whatever location when, you know, you used to be 2 blocks away from that, and now you're 5 miles away from that. And so it adds a lot of different factors to just get a job. A lot of the people on the street that I've met have mental and behavioral health issues. They're on the street for a reason, most of them. And so it's really hard. I mean, if you know anybody that has mental or behavioral issues that are on meds, like, it's doable and they can kind of maintain and control. But imagine if they're not on those meds, and then combine in the factors of trying to survive and everything else that comes with being homeless. It really exasperates those mental and behavioral health issues and problems, and it makes it so a lot of them really couldn't hold down a job, even if they wanted to, which a lot of them still do. And that's one of the reasons why so many people use drugs and alcohol also, is they're trying to self-medicate with what's available to them. And unfortunately, the illegal drugs and alcohol usually makes their mental and behavior problems worse. And so you just have this constant cycle, like all these little cycles going on constantly all the time for these people. And so when you hear people say they should just get a job, or you think in your head as you're walking by somebody who's asking for $5, and you think they should just get a job. Well, I want you to really think about all of the issues and like really try and put yourself in their shoes and what they're trying to do to survive. It's survival for them. It's not fun. I've met 2 people out of probably 200 that want to stay on the street. That's it. They don't want to be out there. They're stuck in all these cycles, and it's really hard for them to break out without help. And our town does this hand up, not a handout motto. And some of our city officials really discourage people from even giving someone on a cold day that isn't standing there in a t-shirt a jacket, because consider giving them a handout, and that's not going to help them, and that's enabling them. These are not my words. These are theirs. And that's not true. You know, you giving them a jacket, they're not going to say like, oh, sweet, great, now I'm going to stay on the street for another year. Like, this will be great. No, they need that jacket so that they can get through that cold night, so that they can survive, because their jacket got stolen earlier. Like, sometimes they need a handout in order to survive. And if we can keep them surviving long enough, that maybe someday they're going to want help. They're going to genuinely want to get off the street and change their life and get back with their families, or get back in their career, or whatever their situation is. And so I implore people to be a little bit more sympathetic and empathetic. Put yourself in their shoes. Try and think about what their lives entail, and just have some sympathy and some kindness, some compassion for the people that are standing there. And if you don't want to give them money, I don't give them money. Just look them in the eye and say hi, or actually just talk to them. Even if it's say, sorry bud, like I don't have anything, but look them in the eye. Stop and ask their name. Chat with them. They're people, and a lot of them don't feel like people. They feel like animals, because they'll go days, weeks, months without people looking them in the eye or treating them like a human being. So, kindness. We can do better, and homelessness is something that shouldn't be. So we all got to do our part, and every single person can make a difference. Every single person can do something to help the homeless situation. We don't need funds. We don't need city support. We don't need government support. Our communities can solve homelessness in each community. So I hope that we can do that together. Thank you so much. Bye.